Life is a contradicting thing. We plan ahead towards certain goals, yet we have no idea of what is coming. We turn our backs to the past, yet it keeps coming back to face us. We live each day so slowly, yet the days go by without us realizing it. Yes, life is a question that seems to have no answer. It was a funny thing when I thought about that at the time. Of all the times in the world, I questioned what it all meant at the very end. I guess other people do as well. We all want to go by each passing day without questions. That's why I was so surprised to be asked by Daryl what I was doing, and not why I was doing it. He hesitated when he kept asking me what I was thinking, what made me do it. I happily answered his question, as I had nothing else to do. I had gone through a journey not a lot of people had gone to. I'd been asking the meaning of life. Many people answered, but no one gave me the right answer. I heard a lot of different opinions, and I just couldn't bring myself to find the right one. I couldn't stand it anymore. Daryl didn't understand it either, but he was persistent in me not finishing it there. He was a good friend, but he couldn't possibly know what I've been through. So the last thing I did was give him what I thought I could do, what I thought I could have. I gave him a destination. Because when one journey ends,
another journey begins. I can never understand how the mind works. As living creatures, the mind is supposed to be thinking of ways for us to live, and not to end. I know sometimes we do things that might risk our lives, but we always think of reasons for it. Either to survive an obstacle, or just to feel alive. What I just saw happen to Jack was something I never thought could ever happen. Even though I rarely do see him, I've always known him to be a person full of life, always wanting to help people and bring happiness to the world. It's what I always liked about him. He had this way of connecting the world. Even here in Australia, where students all over the world come together, he always managed to unite us all in one way or another. It felt like he had opened up a new world to a lot of people who might not notice it if he had not showed it to them. He was an amazing friend. I knew he was conducting a research project for a university about what people thought about their lives. And I felt like I needed some closure, as I was the last person he talked to in his life. I felt like it was supposed to be me to continue. After everything he did, it was the least I could do for him. And I knew other people would feel the same way. People he had also touched. People he called friends. I only knew one of them from my vacation to Indonesia with him. His old friend I met when we were there on a holiday. I only had his number, but that was enough. One person is enough to help me on my quest. One person that I didn't really know enough, but at least I trusted that he too wouldn't let Jack down. And so I went back to Jack's country to fulfill what he wanted to do. When I got there, I saw that the weather wasn't the only thing that was different. Everything was. From the moment I saw him again, Nicholas already had a home for himself. He was quite successful living in Jakarta. Despite that he never passed high school, he was quite a remarkable person. He was a hard worker and he was always helpful. I think that's how he got by in his own life. I told him what had happened to Jack, and he couldn't believe it either. He knew Jack as much as I did, and it had affected him as much as it did me. I told him about my plan there, that I wanted to finish what Jack had started. But I needed his help if I was going to do it. I had no knowledge of the country at all, and I was hoping he could provide some assistance. I thought about it for a long time, but eventually accepted the offer. We began the planning on a journey that would take us to a lot of places to meet different people, with different opinions of life. He was on board and we bought tickets to fly back to Jack's hometown in Bali. But time was clearly not on our side. When we were preparing for our departure, something happened. Nicholas saw something that hit him real deep. It almost changed him. But I didn't know what it was. He didn't tell me. I insisted on asking him what he saw, to clear up his mind. But he insisted that we didn't have much time. My stay in that country was only for a limited time and we needed to finish Jack's quest as soon as possible to lay it to rest. Time was clearly not on our side. As soon as we arrived in Bali, we began our work. I basically followed everything that Jack had previously done. Meet random people, ask them what they thought was important in life, and take pictures of them as memories. It was a simple assignment and I enjoyed it. But somehow Nicholas grew tired of it real quick. Maybe it was the mundane answers they'd given us. But I told him they were pure and unaltered opinions that we had to acknowledge. But he argued that they were the only things that people knew how to answer. The people were poor and unfortunate enough not to travel and experience life outside their own homes. They could never know what it felt like to be foreigners and tourists. They could easily enjoy the world as they will. I saw the logic in his answer, but I also felt some sort of anger in his voice. I thought that maybe I could make him relax, so I decided to take a break from the quest. On the road, I asked him if there was any place he wanted to go. He just said that he'd follow me wherever I go. He insisted on me being the leader. So I did. It was a bit of a turn from my original path. But I figured that if we didn't know how other people's lives would look like, we had to understand the places the people are living first. Just like the people, the animals up there struggle to go through their own lives. The exotic plants are no exception either. They endured many years to survive, and are even generous enough to be the home of other creatures. Even some that weren't friendly enough towards the people. I guess that's what bugged Nicholas the most. He was tired of having to stay with animals that annoyed him. And I had the feeling that I was also becoming one to him. For a long time after, we didn't speak at all. After having a break from the quest, I decided to spend some time in the beautiful beaches that people all around the world go when they visit this remarkable island. Problem is, I couldn't really see what they saw. Mainly because something was troubling me. I knew Nicholas didn't really want to be there with me. And I didn't know why. And then he finally told me. It was a disaster. Natural disaster. Before our departure, he saw a news report that showed him a volcanic ash almost destroyed his whole hometown. He'd been hoping that our journey could take his mind off it, but it didn't succeed. His only thoughts were in too deep into his emotions and he didn't know what else to do. So I told him what he needed to do. I told him to go home to Jakarta, see it and get it out of his system. I assured him that I could continue the journey by myself, and that would be what Jack would have wanted. So he said yes, and we went our separate ways. The last time I saw him, he was eagerly waiting for the flights back to Jakarta. I wished him good luck, even though I might need some for myself. Being in another country, I admit that I had to struggle to get anywhere I wanted to go. Without Nicholas, it was almost impossible for me to get anywhere. For the first time I was there, I felt completely alone. I spent a lot of time searching for the things that shouldn't take long with Nicholas. I struggled to go through the dizzying labyrinth of the island, and I barely succeeded in getting what I set out to do. Somehow I realized what Jack had gone through in Australia. To be far away from his country, and without any help for him to finish his journey. I felt his pain and defeat. From what I heard, Nicholas also had a difficult time. A lot of roads were closed due to all the damage the disaster had caused. But he managed to find some ways to get past them. Even though he himself had to go through the horrible past that still exist. It was a struggle for him to go through all that. But he was determined to see what he'd come to see. He knew he'd come too far to give up so easily. And so he kept on going. And I knew that he would be rewarded with what he'd gone there for. Even though that answer might not be the one he was looking for. After leaving Bali, I had some time to spend back in Jakarta, and bumping into Nicholas was a complete surprise. He said that he'd saw enough of his hometown and wanted to see me again before I leave. He asked me how I did by my own, and I told him I struggled, but I managed to get through it nonetheless. I interviewed a lot of people and thought I could find a way to finish Jack's project. Surprisingly, Nicholas asked me if there was room in there for one more interview. I couldn't believe what he was proposing to me. He said that he'd need to share what he saw, what he experienced. I couldn't say no even if I wanted to. I couldn't let go of the final answer that Jack had led me to. And so, I ended the project with the person that had been helping me all along. I interviewed a friend.
After going through what I've experienced and seeing what I saw, I feel that there's more to life than just what one answer could touch upon. A lot of people feel that life is best experienced when they meet others, when we see all the things that other people can do and what they can contribute to other people's lives. Well, this may be true, but it doesn't apply to everyone. And you see, that's the point. No single answer can relate to all the people living in this world. We all go through different paths, and we all live different lives, so we all have different answers. Seeing what my town had gone through, and to know that people kept on living, that was an experience that I could never forget. To realize that every single person struggles to live a life that is worth living for, that is something other people really should acknowledge. So I guess that means that we all live, not because we're aiming for a specific answer, but because we go through a journey full of answers. Life is a journey, not a question nor an answer. And with each one of those lives, more than one answer really matters.
Yang menurut saya paling penting dalam kehidupan ini yaitu adalah hal berbagi. Berbagi itu bisa banyak hal, entah itu kebahagiaan atau hal-hal secara material.
Hidup itu seperti mendaki gunung. Kita harus menentukan di mana puncak dari gunung yang kita daki itu tersebut, dan dengan siapa saja kita mendaki gunung tersebut.
Di mana petualangan itu akan menjadi kenangan, akan menjadi yang berarti bagi kita. kita di masa depan.
Agar kita bisa membantu sesama supaya orang lain itu bisa merasakan hidup itu indah.
Kehidupan adalah kita harus bisa mensyukuri apapun yang kita miliki, termasuk hal yang kecil dan sepele. Terhindar dari perasaan iri hati atau kecewa terhadap diri sendiri atau terhadap orang lain.
Jadi diri lu sendiri, karena dengan begitu lu akan merubah kehidupan di sekitar lu.
Menjadi orang yang takwa kepada Tuhan yang Maha Esa, cinta kasih kepada negara, bangsa, dan tanah air, dan selalu sehat dalam hidup rohani maupun jasmani.
Mencari kebahagiaan di dunia dan menyiapkan diri untuk kehidupan di alam baka. Bila saya dapat berbuat supaya orang lain bahagia, saya merasa bahagia.
Saya tidak tahu apa yang penting dalam kehidupan, makanya saya jalani tugas ini. Siapa tahu apa yang saya temukan bisa berguna untuk kehidupan orang lain. Siapa tahu